It's nice to be home, but the best part about it is the sunshine. No more ice storms. You'll have to bear with me on this part. As I said in my very first video, one of the things I want to do with this channel is make a sort of video diary for myself so I can look back and remember why I'm out here, where I'm going, where I've been, and some of the things I had to look forward to. Before I get this video started, I wanted to touch briefly on the odometer graphic that I have on my end screen. That odometer is going to track our progress through the 120,000 mile contract that I have with Roehl. Hopefully soon that odometer is going to get moving. However, in phase 2, our miles do not count toward our safe driving miles, 120,000. But check back after phase 2 is done, those miles will start clocking, and I'm excited to see those move. Welcome back. Hopefully this is the last video that I'll be making standing out here for a little while. I look forward to getting to my phase 2, doing some road miles and getting you some video from the road. Hopefully the train noise isn't too high. I live in a fairly hefty rail town, so we'll see where this goes for this particular video. I made some notes. I wanted to go over real quick on coming home from phase 1. So there's a Saturday class after every week. It's your half day. So you go from 7 to about 11 or 11:30. The class that we took after our CDL exam was probably the longest class I took during the entire program. After that class, you're released to go home. You're not allowed back in the hotel room anyway, so you're packed up and you're ready to go. We got out about 11 o'clock, and I made my beeline south to central eastern Illinois. My trip was a lot less hours than some of the other people. I made it home before sundown, which I was pretty excited about. I was able to enjoy my Saturday evening and my Sunday at home. I try not to think too much about the truck or rail or driving or phase 2 or phase 1, the CDL exams over that Saturday night and Sunday. It's not easy because I am excited to get into phase 2. First thing they expect you to do when you get home is to go and finalize that CDL process. So in my case, in Illinois, you have to make an appointment online for the DMV, and I did so. The very first appointment I could get was Tuesday morning. So I had Monday to kind of give that a thought and hope that nothing was going to go wrong. I know through my recruiting process, we've chatted a little bit. We may go into in the future more of the hoops I had to jump through, and there was a kind of a hiccup in the process that took me a little while to get undone. So I thought about that on Monday. I was a little gun shy, but Tuesday morning I went in and it was the easiest process to wrap things up. Much easier than the learner's permit. I think they got a lot of the things that go into getting a CDL paperwork-wise done. It's a commercial learner's permit part of the process. So I got that yesterday. So today is Wednesday. It's the first day of the waiting game to get my trainer. I spoke to my training manager on Monday afternoon. We went over a few things, some expectations, some notes that he can use to make sure I get launched as quickly and efficiently as possible. As well as Tuesday, I spoke to him briefly just to make sure that all the CDL process was done, let him know that my license was uploaded, and now we're just waiting on the safety department to review that information so that he can get me launched out. While I'm waiting, I wanted to touch base on a few things. I did not post any information about the 3-week process in my phase 1. Today I wanted to make some notes on those weeks and why there isn't very specific video that I'm going to share necessarily about those. One of the first things they're going to ask you to do after you have shown up and you've done your qualification day where you've got your I-9 completed and all those agreements signed off on, is they're going to talk to you about some videos. Some J.J. Keller videos is what they're called, amongst some others. They're going to plead with you just about to get these J.J. Keller videos done. There's a lot of them. It can take a while to get them done. but you for sure need to start focusing on those. You're going to have time in the hotel, you're going to have time after class, on your weekdays and your weekend to get these knocked out. I think for me personally, the reason that it was extremely important to get these JJ Killer videos knocked out was so that you could focus on the training program. You can focus on things like the pre-trip inspection that you'll be doing some memory work on, the skills that you're about to be introduced to. So get those JJ Killer videos done. They will only fill the back of your mind and preoccupy you while you're trying to learn other skills. You want to get those knocked out. In addition to those JJ Killer videos, there are 6 or 7, I think, other videos as well. Some of those are internal, some of those are videos from vendors and things like that that go over some other parts of the training that you're gonna be a part of. The pre-trip inspection that they hand you on day 1 looks huge. A lot of people were intimidated by it. I was intimidated by it when I first saw it. There's a lot of points over your equipment that you're going to be inspecting every single day. This is a huge part of your job. It's where safety really comes into play. You want to try to be proactive with this, and your pre-trip inspection starts your day off right. It's going to be a part of your job. So, as intimidating as it is, you're going to be doing it a lot, and just by the nature of repetition, you'll get it. You're going to be seeing those pieces of equipment, you're going to be using those pieces of equipment, it'll make sense. Especially if you've never been around semi-trailers and tractors before, a lot of this is going to seem a little overwhelming. The language itself, there seems to be a lot of it on each part when they hand it to you. Many pieces of that language is repeated from part to part. It is not nearly as intimidating as it looks. But one of the things that's going to be important here is, again, getting rid of some of the other things off your plate right up front, some of that paperwork, those JJ Killer videos, so you can focus on the pre-trip inspection so that you can be more comfortable with that. As soon as you can be more comfortable with that, the sooner your mind can relax a little and start soaking in a lot of information that they're throwing at you. Some of the things that I did to help with learning my pre-trip inspection was varying how I was doing it. So mixing up the order of the pre-trip that you're doing, mixing up the type, whether it's read aloud to yourself, to a group, reading over your sheets back at the hotel. There is a pre-trip inspection video on that Roehl app, one of the many videos that you will see, where it goes from start to finish, where he touches and points and explains every single point. So that's another thing I did. I had that running almost in the background. Every time I hit maybe on one of my weak spots I couldn't remember, I would look up and I would see exactly what he was doing and try to make that association in my mind. But again, that was some good background noise for me. I struggle a little bit under the pressure of being examined. So one of the tips I got from my instructor was to go back and write things down, rewrite your language down, or rewrite your points down. This was a thing that I know helped me when I was in school. So after lectures and your notes and rewriting notes, that really helped me. So I went and did that, and that really went a long way. It did help, and I just forgot how much that helped me back in my studying days. The next thing you'll get on day 1 is your hours of service logs. They're going to teach you how to use the paper logs. In your day-to-day life, there's going to be the electronic logs. However, obviously technology does break down. They want you to know, because it is a federal requirement to maintain these logs, and you're going to learn how to use the paper logs while you're in this phase 1. Do the logs. Many people will try to catch up these logs, either after 1 day or for 2 or 3 days even. When you learn how to do those logs and they send you out into the world of training, continue to do the logs, keep them up to date. It's a lot easier. And then when you get reviewed with these logs, it'll be easier for them to point out things that maybe you need to clean up a little bit or ask questions. If you wait for 3 or 4 days, you're going to forget what it was that you were doing. You're going to make mistakes on your log. You may not even remember what mistakes you had made and which questions you had about the log. So do the paper logs. It comes in handy to explain your duty status changes, and for me it helped prompt some questions. And so I really try to take care in making a clean log, doing all your flags appropriately for your status changes, and I'm hoping that that will only bolster my use of the hours in my computer later, and just an overall understanding of how the hours of service work, which can be a little daunting, especially if you've never been introduced to all these different numbers that come in with 70 hours and 34-hour resets and 11-hour drive days and 8 hours, half an hour break in 8 hours, and all these different things. In my last video, I touched base briefly on being very cautious in where you get your information from. One of the things I said is don't listen to those people on YouTube, me being one of them, so I still stand by that advice. But if I could give one piece of advice for something you'd be prepared on prior to attending Roehl specific GYCDL program, it will be knowing your Safe 7. The Safe 7 is part of their safety culture, and it really builds on everything that you're going to be doing inside the truck. Those Safe 7 are slow down, stay back, know what's happening, yield to others, expect the expected, prepare to drive, and reduce the risk. Again, everything that you do in the truck is going to relate to this Safe 7. So it's going to be handy to know that. As you get to the program, they're going to go over exactly what those mean and what you're going to be doing within the confines of those Safe 7. But if you can start to memorize those now and really live by them, it will come in handy. I want to go over some of the things on the road as you start driving this equipment around, which you will do quite quickly, that I perhaps struggled a little bit myself, and some of the other people that I know struggle with slightly. Some of these are great that you could start practicing now in your personal vehicle. I did immediately once it was identified that I was struggling with them in my tractor. I went between the hotel and the yard and wherever else I was going. I immediately started practicing these so that I could cut out those car habits and prepare myself to operate this equipment. End speed is one of them. So my approaching to stops, whether it be a stop sign or a traffic signal, but also my end speed and coming up, preparing to set myself up for a turn. It takes a little longer to get this thing slowed down smoothly to make your turn and make your stop than it would in your personal vehicle. And I struggle with that a little bit. And if you have just a slip of thought process, you can find yourself going very quickly into a stop. And that's something I had to really focus on. One of the things I tried to do is doing that in my personal vehicle when traveling. It looks a little goofy, so starting so far back in my pickup truck. So I adjusted that a little bit, but just to help me think about my end speed was pretty helpful to get that habit going. Hands on the wheel was huge for me at first. I think Michelle, my instructor, considered securing my hands to the wheel at one point. Not that that would be a safe thing to do. I have a terrible habit in my pickup or my car to take my hands off the wheel, whether I'm waiting for a train, which I do quite often in my hometown, or sitting at a stop sign or something like that, waiting for a lot of traffic. In your 18-wheeler, you are not taking your hands off the wheel. So one of the things, again, just like my end speed, I started practicing immediately was keeping my hands on the wheel no matter what while I was in my pickup truck. Going back to the hotel or to Walmart or wherever I was locking myself onto that wheel. It took a few days, but as soon as I kind of changed my habit or began to change my habit in my personal vehicle, it became much easier to remember to keep my damn hands on the wheel while in the tractor. Another thing that I had to kill from my personal vehicle use was canceling my turn signal very early. It's probably a terrible habit, but whether it's going around a corner in your car, it turns it off by itself, or if I'm changing lanes and I flip it off pretty quick when I make that change, I had to stop myself from doing that in the tractor-trailer combination, as obviously it takes much longer to change lanes, period, much less waiting for your trailer to track behind you and get fully in your lane before canceling that turn signal. I struggle with this as well, but again, with practice in my personal vehicle and trying to cut out that bad habit, it really helped me improve inside the tractor. Some of the other things that I saw that either I struggle with some and some other people struggle with was maintaining your lane. A tractor trailer combination is going to wander, I guess, I don't know what the right word would be, a little bit in your lane. There's a little more play. Your trailer tandems are going to cause it to walk a little bit. It's just maintaining your lane can be new to a lot of people that have never driven a trailer or a long trailer anyway. What I found that was helpful as the instructor was having us look at that was maintaining your vision down into your future and spending less time in your mirrors. A lot of times what I was seeing with people that were not used to having a trailer behind you is the tendency to want to watch that trailer now. It's something new. It's doing things behind you. When you're making turns and lane changes and everything you do, you have to watch that trailer. So going in a straight line, sometimes it's a tendency to really want to see it. But if you forget to kind of watch your future, I was seeing that a lot of people were having to kind of bump back and forth between your lane as the whole piece of equipment wandered. Maintaining your speed, I think we all probably struggled a little bit with this during the program. I know I did, my truck mate did. The gear shifting in a semi-tractor is different than your personal vehicle. When you're maintaining the speed limit, let's say it's 35 miles an hour in your personal vehicle, if you were to just happen to change gradient just a little bit, or road surface even, it doesn't make a lot of change in your personal vehicle. In an 18-wheeler, it does not take much for that truck to get really moving and shift gears, and you go from 35 to 38 real quick with just a simple shift of gears. So to really pay attention to what our speed was, I always try to keep it down to 3-4 miles an hour under the speed limit, although you can't go too slow. You'll find that out. But trying to keep it off of that limit really helped out, because again, it doesn't take much to really get cooking. Another thing is in your turns. In your personal vehicle, turns are quite simple. You know, you're kind of watching out and you make your turn. There's a few things that I do share when I'm driving personally in this process, but you really have to break this down when you're in the truck. Your approach, your setup, your turn, and your finish. So in the actual turn itself, a lot of us were forgetting, and I struggled myself just a little bit, as I'm sure a lot of people do, is there are two sides of your truck. So even though you're making a right turn perhaps, you have to watch the left side as well. On your left side is the bulkhead. The bulkhead likes to hit things if you're too close to them. So bulkheads, tandems. Michelle's voice, my instructor, will be there forever, and I'm sure there's many people that drive for Roehl and beyond that will always hear her bulkheads, tandems, as to make sure that you're checking the both during the entire process of your turn. But once we got that down in her voice in my head, it was a lot easier during your turns to remember to do that. In week 2, you're practicing a lot of the things that you learned in week 1. You're hopefully showing progress, making sure that those things like in speed in your turns and you're maintaining your lane and things like that are progressing, and they're getting up to a satisfactory level so that you can get proficient at it. They're adding things like making sure that you're reading the signs on the side of the road. They'll call those out as you're driving. Hey, what was that sign? Do you know what that sign says? Can we turn down this road? Things like that. They'll talk a lot more about the off-tracking of the trailer. You'll be responding to what your trailer is doing. At the end of week 2, you'll take a pre-CDL test. In our case anyway, our instructor swaps trucks and students. So we all went on a pre-trip inspection with another instructor, and we got graded on a drive with another instructor. This really solidifies any of the things that perhaps your instructor was missing, so they can give you some different pointers there. It also gives you a chance to hear some different language from a different instructor. And this kind of ties into one of the things I talked about before, is that if you're not responding or you're not understanding to some of the things your instructor is saying, perhaps another way of saying it from a different person would help. The instructors in my case have really tried to make sure they're discussing things with people as individuals, not just everybody in the truck gets it one way. But this is a great opportunity with the pre-CDL test to get a taste of that. If that person's making way more sense to you, maybe things will click more. You might want to bring that up to your main instructor and say, hey, look, so and so said this, and it makes more sense. Can you kind of go over this again with me, or something similar to that, and talking to different people to get what clicks for you. Make sure you're understanding it. Don't just say, okay, let's move on, so that you can progress, because you will come back to that skill that you didn't quite understand, and you will do it wrong. You will do it not the Roehl way, and that's what we're trying to achieve here. So just make sure you ask your questions. If it's not clear, one of the things I saw all through week 1 and 2 were people being very concerned about the CDL exam. My advice there is, again, with me telling you to be very careful about whose advice you take, my advice here is don't worry about the CDL exam. Roehl is going to make you proficient in the skills that it takes to operate this equipment to their standard. And believe me, now that I've been through this part of the program, Roehl's standard far outweighs the standard of this the CDL exam that you're going to take. If you can be proficient in the skills that Roehl is going to teach you during this program, you are going to cakewalk through the CDL exam. So focus on what your instructors are saying, focus on the information they've handed out to you in the videos in the Roehl app, and there won't be a problem. So with all that worry and questions about the CDL exam during week 1 and week 2, finally you make it to week 3, and they're going to focus pretty heavily on the CDL exam. They're going to explain the material that the CDL exam asks for, the maneuvers it asks for, the pre-trip inspection that it asks for, and your drive basically is the safe drive that you've been driving the railway ever since you started. They walked us through the exact pre-trip inspection that the DOT exam wants. They took us through and introduced the maneuvers that are on the CDL exam. One of the things that will click, hopefully, when you see that maneuver set is that all the different things they've been taking you through and all the different maneuvers they've been teaching you have been about learning how the equipment responds to your input. I saw that a lot of people really tried to take the placement of cones or the placement of barricades and things like that into account when doing their maneuvers. Again, going back to the advice that you probably shouldn't take, but in my suggestion would be, is that forget the cones, in the sense that the cones don't matter. All the things that they are teaching you is to recognize the way your equipment behaves with your inputs. Once you recognize what that trailer is going to do or that tractor is going to do when you change things like your steering wheel position, throttle, or braking, you're going to reach a point to where you can attempt any maneuver that you come across. Every single back is different. Every single customer property will be slightly different. So understanding the reaction of your equipment to you is going to be far more important than trying to learn where this cone is or that cone is or where the concrete block is, because you need to watch everything every single time. In this week 3 also is where you need to make sure that 6 or 7 additional videos are complete. That's in addition to the JJ Killers that you completed almost right away, as soon as possible. But those will get you that off your plate as well. Some of those are hazmat or operational type videos. But once those are done, you can really focus on getting your CDL exam taken care of. In our case, they scheduled tests for Thursday and Friday of that week. The instructors meet with management and they talk about who would best fit where in that schedule. My truck mate and I were pretty heavy overthinkers, and the longer we thought about our maneuvers and our drives throughout the day, I think the more we got in our own heads and you started to see some holes in our process. So we were lucky enough to get scheduled for 7 a.m. I was on Thursday, my truck mate was on Friday, so that there was not a whole lot going on in our day besides breakfast before we were able to jump in and take that test. On Friday, after my truck mate completed his CDL exam, we spent the rest of the day kind of focusing on some other skills. It was filled with some more backing. We looked at very briefly at some close quarters things. We talked about some reefer information. We went and looked at sliding some tandems a little bit. We finished the day off with some nice tornado experience and hailstorms moving in, so we spent some good amount of time in the basement before going home. I can say that I learned a lot from the program. I grew a lot in the program. There are many things I'll be taking into my personal life as well, whether it's just my general driving experience, my outlook on other drivers that are on the road, driving recreational vehicles, whether it be boat trailers or RVs and things like that. There are some things mechanically that I will take with me, but everything, it may sound a little dyed in the wool to say, but I do think it's going to make me a better driver, and I do appreciate these things I've learned. One of the last things we did was have some Phase 2 prep. We had a Zoom call with other terminals and GYCDL students that were spoke to a fleet training operations manager about what we can expect, when we should expect to hear from them. Our instructors gave us the names of our fleet training manager. They went over some things like fuel card and some membership cards like gloves, wrapped up some paperwork there, and sent us on our way at our Saturday class and home, just like we started this video.
Every mile I promise made, every wrong turn fades away. On this dusty highway, I'm finally moving on. Let the past stay behind me, where the daylight's gone. Yeah, this dusty highway feels like coming home.